good?
Yep.
Good evening and welcome to closed session for Tuesday, March 2nd. Nicole, can you please take roll call?
Yes.
I'll call this meeting to order at 5:05 PM.
Yes. Is your mic on, Mayor? I don't hear you over the mics.
You don't hear me? Should I
No.
get closer?
Is it on?
Check, check.
There we go.
Okay.
That's better.
Gotta learn it all over again.
That's okay. I'll do roll call. We have a meeting start time at 5:05. Councilmember Santos?
Here.
Councilmember Fenn?
Here.
Councilmember Martinez?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Here.
Mayor Lara?
Here. In response to Riverside County remaining in the purple tier, which allows for modified indoor gathering, this meeting will be open to the public and conducted in a virtual format to be inclusive of all participation preferences. Public comment participation is encouraged by emailing any comments to the city clerk's office or by calling in using the phone number provided on the front of the agenda. Nicole, do we have any comments, public comments at this time?
I have no written comments. Carrie, do we have anyone on the line?
No callers on the line.
Okay, Mr. Pinckney, will you please read the closed session items for discussion?
Yes, the first item for closed session is conference with legal counsel regarding potential initiation of litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D4, one potential case. The second item is conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. City designated representative, City Manager Todd Parton, and Administrative Services Director Carrie Mendoza, employee organizations, the Beaumont Police Officers Association, and the SEIU. Item 3 is conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1 and/or 2 and/or 3 workers' compensation case number COBM-0084.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pinckney. So with that, we will adjourn to closed session at 5:07. Either one, yeah, it doesn't matter. She's gonna do the other. I'll just take care. Okay, cool.
Nicole, can you make the presenters?
We are live, so whenever you want to start.
Okay, so we're ready? Is Ray there?
Oh, there he is.
Yeah?
Right here.
Okay. So I apologize for the coming out late. We're coming out of closed session. I will go ahead and, did you get a report out of closed session, John?
Yes, the council met in closed session. Item number 1 was conference with legal counsel regarding potential initiation of litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D4, one potential case. There was no reportable action. Item number 2, conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. City designated representatives, City Manager Todd Parton, and Administrative Services Director Carrie Mendoza, the employee organizations, the Beaumont Police Officers Association, and the SEIU. There was no reportable action taken. Item 3, conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1 and/or 2 and/or 3 workers' compensation case COBM 0084. There was no reportable action taken.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pigney. I'm going to go ahead and open our regular session for Tuesday, March 2nd at 6:37. Can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Santos,
Here.
Councilmember Fenn,
Here.
Councilmember Martinez,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem White, Mayor Lara.
Here. Mayor Pro Tem White, can you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure.
Councilmember Santos.
Yes.
Ready, begin. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Okay, Nicole, do we have any announcements or recognitions this evening?
I have none for this evening.
All right, guys, get it.
Okay.
Now, for bedtime.
Okay, so in response to the County of Riverside remaining in the purple tier, which allows for modified indoor gathering, this meeting will be open to the public and conducted in a virtual format to be inclusive of all participation preferences. Public comment participation is encouraged by emailing any comments to the city clerk's office or by calling in using the phone number provided at the front of the agenda. Nicole, do we have any public comments at this time?
Yes, sir, I do. I have Shane Sissons.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thank you for your time. My name's Shane. I'm currently the Building Plans Examiner for the Building and Safety Department for the City of Beaumont. I'm here as a member of SCIU just to talk to you and tell you that us as the members of SCIU 721 love our community. We take a lot of pride and investment and time, not only with the community members that we come across, but those that we may not always get to talk to, but, you know, simple waves and things like that. The community means a lot to us, and we have struggled in the past. That's not necessarily a issue with council, but it's a belief that SCIU members love fairness. And with that being said, we have a lot of members who are in support of the fairness agreement. I've come here to represent those members tonight. I also have a couple of signed petitions showing member support for that fairness agreement when it comes to our negotiations. In the 15 years that I've been here, we've seen a lot of negotiations go, oh, we'll give that back to you guys in a couple of years. It's just times are tight and things haven't gone as planned. Of course, we know what happened to that group. With that said, some of those benefits that we've seen have never come back. So the idea of having that fairness agreement is one of those items that members see as settling. It's that meaningfulness that the city council has their back while they're out there in the field driving a bus or maybe stopping traffic to make a pothole. With that being said, thank you for your time. I appreciate you all.
Thank you very much for your comments, Shane.
I have no written comments, but Carrie, do we have anyone on the line?
No callers on the line.
Okay, so with that, we will close the public comments section, which will bring us to the consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar are taken as one action item unless an item is pulled for further discussion. Here or at the end of action items. Approval of all ordinances and resolutions to be read by title only. Are there any items to be pulled for discussion on consent? Or do we have a motion? Let me back up 1 second. Do we have any public comments on consent items?
I have no written comments. Carrie, do we have anyone on the line? She's muted. Carrie, do we have anyone on the line?
No, sorry, can you hear me now? No
Yes.
callers on the line.
Thank you.
Okay, so I can look for a motion on consent unless somebody on council.
I have a question, point of order question. How are we monitoring, Mr. Santos? Is, Nicole?
Hey, Mayor,
Or are you monitoring?
Are you able to see?
He's not here.
We can't see.
You can't see on that one? Is it
that's
on?
off.
No.
That's why.
Oh,
While you're looking
Thank
at
you.
that, I have a quick question on item number 4. I don't need to. pull it.
Sure.
I just want to ask, city
Good night.
hang on 1 second, Ray.
Okay.
Councilmember Santos, excuse me.
So normally, I think these items number 4, the purchase of a new vehicle.
There he is.
We've seen those all on, not on consent, but as separate items. I'm just curious as to, is this one different from the other ones, or am I misremembering?
Yeah, we've been putting them, anything over 40,000 goes on open discussion. Contracts and purchases under 40,000. So I think most of the vehicles we've been buying have been exceeding 40,000.
Mayor Pro Tem, I think your mic is off. Is it?
Now it is.
Oh, now it is.
Thank you. My glasses keep fogging up. I can't see the light.
Does that answer your question?
That answered my question.
Okay, so do we have a motion on consent or,
Hold on, Mike.
yes, sir.
Oh,
Councilmember
Mayor,
Santos.
can I pull out number 5 for discussion? Or comment?
You want to make a comment on number 5 or do you want to discuss it?
I like a comment.
We'll go
Can I
ahead.
do that now or,
Go ahead,
yeah,
Councilmember
consent
Santos.
or I'll come back?
No, go ahead.
I'll go ahead. Okay. Yeah, regarding this, budget that we have, and I look on the column. I like to see Jeff, if possible. I mean, the variance percentage on the year-to-date versus budget. So I could easily, dissect the number instead of going all the way down. I'm just getting lazy on looking at it. I mean, while on the road, I do look on the numbers and everything, and that will be beneficial for me. I mean, to see it. I think some people could see it also. What's the variance on your budget versus your actual on that? I mean, I just like to see that, if that's possible, and also on the on your line item on the general fund, I put a note in here, and the budget, I really like this. I mean, we have a zero budget approach, which is very excellent, approach on this. I mean, that would be nice, to do I like the way you put it on the estimated column in there. That's good. I mean, we could see it and your projections in there. And I do expect, this fiscal year, 2021 would be a good number. On that, probably I'm expecting a little bit over around 5 million on that. And as I said, I mean, I really appreciate the column on the estimated on that. And then probably you could, I'm just repeating myself on here is the variance of, percentage on that. That'll be helpful on that. And on the wastewater fund, and after hearing some of the informations, I would like to see if possible. I mean, when we're done on the projects, especially this year or next year, to have a new 5 years budget forecast on that, because I will be hopefully will be in a full operation on this, and I would like to see what will be our forecast for the full operation on the plant. I'm excited on the plant on that.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mr. Santos. I have to apologize because looking at the agenda, some of my comments that are off to the right on the general fund did not come through, and I'll have to be a little more careful at what gets transcribed over to you, because I do have a number of comments on some of the variances or some of the proposed variances that just didn't make it through to your package, so I apologize for that. With regard to the wastewater, I'll certainly work with the city manager to get to look at start getting a wastewater long-term forecast. We haven't done that for the wastewater. We've done it for general fund, but it makes sense to be looking at that. Certainly, city manager has forecasted out revenues over a period of time, and certainly we can, as the plant starts to settle into a normal rhythm as far as their expenditures, we probably should be able to start getting moving on that type of project as well.
That's
you very
good,
much.
Jeff, especially on the revenue side too. Thank you so much, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the comments, Councilmember Santos. Thank you very much, Mr. Mollenkamp. So with that, could I get a action or a motion for consent items?
Yeah, Mayor, I'll move to approve consent items number 1 through 5.
I'll second.
Second by Santos, Councilmember Santos.
I'll do roll call. Councilmember Santos?
Aye, yes.
Councilmember Fenn?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Yes.
Mayor Lara?
Yes. That brings us to public hearings. Item 6, public hearing. Public hearing continued to March 16th regarding revisions to the approved city prior year capital improvement project plan and fiscal year 21-20 through 25 capital improvement project plans. So I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing this evening at 6:48. I'm sorry, can I get staff report by Ms. Christine Day?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This will be an amendment to the CIP. Staff has not finished formulating all of that to make sure that we have all the closures and all the projects just tied up. So basically, this will be a mid-year closure of projects, things that we've done. We'll take certain funds back to their original places. And then from there, there is one project that we will open related to a park grant that council authorized us to submit for. We're asking tonight that, because we're not quite ready for this, that you open the public hearing, continue it, and you'll see the full package in your next council package.
Okay. Thank you very much, Christine. So,
Mayor, I'll move to continue this open public hearing to March 16th.
before we take action on that, do we have any public comments that, from folks today, this evening?
I have no written comments. Carrie, do we have anyone on the line?
No callers on the line.
Okay, thank you very much. So with that, we'll take a, do we have a second to Mayor Pro Tem White's motion?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
We have a second from Councilmember Finn. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Santos?
Aye.
Councilmember Fenn?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Yes.
Mayor Lara?
Yes. That brings us to action item 7. Authorize a contract with Nth Generations in the amount of $179,897.12 for a disaster recovery and backup solution to include implementation and a 5-year support service. Staff report from Mr. Edgar.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Before you, I have a staff report for a backup solution. I'm going to give you a disclaimer. I'm not going to go into too many details on our current backup situation because of our security posture. So I am going to talk about, and they should be on the line also. This backup solution is a robust backup solution that has what the National Institute of Standards and Technology calls a full robust backup. They call for 2 on-prem backups and then 1 cloud solution. A lot of these bad actors with ransomware are affecting the local backups. What happens in that situation is you're not able to recover. So you have restore points and then restore time that are just prolonged. So we had a few of our local municipalities and police departments that have been affected by ransomware. Because they've been affected, they've been able to they've lost over 6 months of data. Obviously, we're taking some proactive measures so that we don't ever get compromised in that way. Getting a firewall and getting security around the system is one way of protecting us. But it's really turned into having a recovery plan. It's not just policy, but actually something that works. Nth Generation has brought up a good solution for us. We went out to RFP and had a numerous amount of solutions that were presented to us, this being the best one. It really puts us in a situation where we're able to recover fast, and our restore point won't be 6 months or 10 months of data loss. And I'm able to answer any questions about that. Again, I want to keep it very brief, but I also want Anth, if you have any questions, Anth can also answer those questions for you. Are they on the line, I think? Yeah.
Yes, hi, good evening. This is Catherine Hayes from Nth Generation, and then I also have the manufacturer Rubric on the line, as well as the cloud manufacturer Wasabi.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Evening, and welcome. Do we have any public comment regarding this item? Nicole?
I have no written comments. Carrie, do we have anyone on the line?
No callers on the line.
Okay, then I'll open it up for council discussion.
So the cloud solution is Azure, correct?
Yes, correct. So the cloud solution is actually being provided by Wasabi. So Rubric is the infrastructure backup provider. Wasabi is a third party. We needed to find a partner that was CJIS compliant, so Criminal Justice Information Services compliant, because of our police department. So Wasabi is CJIS compliant.
Okay. Yeah, we use Azure at our work as well for our backup cloud system too.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all I have.
Good? You're good?
Yep.
Councilmember Finn?
I don't have any
Good.
tonight, Mayor.
Councilmember Santos? You good? That was easy.
Okay.
Thank you both very much for attending. We appreciate that very much, and thank you for your support of our city.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you,
Mayor,
Edgar.
would you like
With
to
that,
make a motion?
we have a motion.
Mayor, I'll move to authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Nth Generation Computing, Inc. in the amount of $179,897,012 for a disaster recovery and backup solution to include implementation and a 5-year support service.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. We have roll call, please.
Councilmember Santos?
Yes.
Councilmember Fenn?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Yes.
Mayor Lara?
Yes. That brings us to action item 8, mayoral appointment of liaisons to the Beaumont Basin Water Master Board. Staff report by D. Todd Pardon.
Thank you, Mayor. So this item's really being brought forward to you for the proposed designation of some council members as liaisons. These would be a new appointment. The Beaumont Basin Water Master is a board that was created pursuant to an adjudication that was established back in the early 2000s. There's a specific geographic area called the Beaumont Basin, and that's a area for which water is produced and water is supposed to be replenished and managed within a specific geographic basin area. So a water board was created through the Superior Court of California with an adjudication that establishes some rules and guidelines for what the Beaumont Basin Board is, what its roles and responsibilities are supposed to do, and then ultimately outlining the guidelines or the practical components of the elements that are supposed to be implemented to manage and create sustainability within the watershed covered under the Beaumont Basin. So the city of Beaumont is one of 5 members that were created with that adjudication. And if you look in your packet, you'll see where that was established. It's on page 131, where you look at the water master appointment. It's paragraph 4 under Article 6, Administration. It just says, the water master shall consist of a committee composed of persons nominated by the city of Banning, city of Beaumont, Beaumont Cherry Valley Water District, South Mesa Mutual Water Company, and Ucapa Valley Water District. So those official representatives for each one of those agencies are further defined in that section, which basically says that they either have to be staff members or consultants of the member agencies. So that means that really elected officials really are not supposed to have a seat on this board. This board has far-reaching policy decisions that it makes. Those policy determinations and decisions, rules that are created pursuant to the authorities of the board, will have a long-term impact on not just Beaumont, but on the other member agencies and communities that are located within the Beaumont Basin. There's been, over the years, really a lack of, I think, linkage and information flow that's coming from what the board is doing back to the governing bodies. And so that really is a critical issue. So what's proposed here would be, as we do with some of our other boards, committees, and agencies that Beaumont is subject to or party to, is to create liaisons that can then work back to that board, or work with the representatives that are representing the community on those various boards. In our case, Jeff Hart, our Public Works Director and City Engineer, is established as our official member on the board. That was, I had put forward his request to the Board of Supervisors for his appointment to the board. His backup is Robert Vestal, who is our senior project engineer that works directly for Mr. Hart. So from the staff perspective, that's how we have that covered. But what I would envision with these liaisons is that, again, we have our staff working directly with you. We want to make sure that we're also feeding back some of those significant policy implications and policy determinations that are being made. One critical issue that is outstanding that the Water Master Board is going to have to look at is going to have to be recycled water, and how recycled water is going to be credited back towards entities. That's important for the city of Beaumont because as a Title 22 producer, there are certain responsibilities that we have to ensure that that water is maintained and recharged or applied within the basin. But there's also elements of ensuring that the city gets credit for that water that's being produced and is being applied within the basin. So that is an outstanding issue that the Water Master Board really hasn't dealt with over the years since its inception. And it is something that is carried forward on multiple agendas, if you kind of go back and look at the agenda. So it's just a future agenda item that needs to be talked about. We've had discussions with other members, representing members on the Beaumont Basin Board about needing to begin a conversation to look at those kinds of issues. But again, that board is also looking at other issues and making other rules with regard to what happens with appropriated water rights. A question about how those should be managed, about what happens with unused appropriated rights and how they get transferred back or credited and shared amongst other members. So there's a lot of discussion. There's a lot of competing interest that is happening and occurring at that board level, at a staff level, that again will be critical and will have a direct and indirect impact on not just us, but on the other communities. I will say Beaumont Cherry Valley Water District and the city of Beaumont are probably the only entities that are located entirely and encompassed entirely within the Beaumont Basin. So the other member agencies are partially located within, and in the case of the Capital Valley Water District and Banning, they're actually, the majority of their service area is actually located outside the Beaumont Basin. So anyway, recommendation was to request that the mayor have the opportunity to appoint a couple lucky volunteers to be willing to join in and create and establish that liaison relationship back to staff and to the Beaumont Basin Water Master. So, Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Parton. Appreciate that. So, on this appointment, the idea I had, and I'm open for consensus on this, was that for consistency, for the sake of consistency, we have Mayor Pro Tem White and Councilmember Martinez, who are currently on the 2x2 for the Cherry Valley Water District. And my thought was is that you would also be the liaisons for the Beaumont Water Master. The only concern that I have is that it meets the first Wednesday of the month at 10 a.m. and I didn't know if that would create a potential issue.
Not for me, I'm good with that.
Mr. Mayor, they meet every other month.
Every other month?
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, that would be fine. I can adjust the time for every other month, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I agree with the consistency and also discuss issues with
Okay. Then the only other thing that I was going to suggest also was that because of the 10 a.m., we have maybe a backup. And so I was going to suggest Councilmember Finn, if you were interested.
Sure, Mr. Mayor, I'd be glad to. And having been a member of the San Diego Pass Water Agency, I have attended many of the Water Master meetings and have a good general idea of what's going on. And I appreciate the report from Mr. Parton. He addressed many of the issues that are going on, and especially with those water rights, it's kind of a confusing topic. So having a regular member there, or a couple of members, is gonna benefit the city quite a bit.
Councilmember Santos, would you be okay with those suggestions that I've laid out?
That's good, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much.
On that.
So we'll have Councilmember Martinez and Mayor Pro Tem White would be the liaisons. And in case of we have an issue with attendance, Councilmember Finn would be the alternate to those two.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Parton. Appreciate that. Item 9, action item 9, consideration of a cooperative agreements between the City of Beaumont, City of Banning, Riverside County, and the State of California for the provision of fire protection, rescue, fire marshal, and emergency medical services. Mr. Parton, you are up again, sir.
Oh, thank you. So Beaumont secures its fire, EMS, rescue, fire prevention services, fire marshal services through a suite of agreements that do a number of different things. So we've outlined the four main ingredients of those agreements. So you have currently contract number 1855, which is the cooperative agreement between Beaumont and Riverside, that County of Riverside, and that is the primary agreement that covers kind of the core what we think about in terms of our fire protection and fire prevention services and fire marshal. Then we have contract 1861. 1861 is the tri-party agreement that includes the city of Banning, and that provides for the shared cost and operations expenses for the operation of Station 20, which is shared a third by Beaumont, a third by Banning, and a third by Riverside County. We did enter into a letter of intent on June 19th of 2018, and that's where we added a paramedic patrol to Station 66 within the city of Beaumont. That paramedic squad, as we call it, really was established to increase the number of staffing. It's about 2/3 of an engine company. The idea was we were seeing a significant amount of stress with regard to the call volume increases and the strain with regard to average response times. So we worked with CAL FIRE to establish that squad. So it basically provides additional coverage for emergency medical calls, which comprise about 80% or so of our total fire call load. And then ultimately, we have contract number 20-58. And 2058 is the wildland protection agreement. So that's where if we have a fire that occurs within a certain proximity of the city limits within our sphere of influence, we're covered under basic contract. With this wildland agreement, if we have a wildfire that occurs within our area, within our sphere, then we wouldn't be hit for any additional costs. So, if you look at some of the fires that we've had in our area recently, there's millions of dollars of costs that would be associated with some of those fires. So this ensures that we get the coverage and we're good. Overall, when you look at the cost for these four components, the actual impact to the general fund for last year was almost $4.1 million. So it's grown from about 3 million a few years ago to about 4.1 million, and that's because we've added those additional services to it. We are looking at a new contract. This current contract, these are 3-year terms. We're in the last year of a 3rd year, and Riverside County is now starting to float out the new 3-year contract. That new contract is it is the same contract that we've seen, but the elements that we're most concerned about are the cost components and the charges that are established in the appendix to the contract, and particularly Appendix A. So at the time that this staff report was written, last week, we did not yet see the new proposed Appendix A that would attach to the new contract, which would take us for the next 3 years, so from 22 through 24. So I just have gotten those. There's a number of questions about some of the charges that are established there, some tweaking and some corrections that probably need to be made on it. But one of the issues that we've expressed concern about has been about the ancillary charges that are added to the fire contract costs. So if you go back and look at the 2020 fiscal year and what we'll probably see roll up in the 21 fiscal year and this current year is that about 20% of your total contract costs are going to pay different kinds of county overhead. And so there's additional administrative costs that they layer on, and there's a different formulaic ways for which those costs are added and calculated. So when you look at the budgetary forecasts, these 3-year forecasts that are created with these contract documents, they have certain assumptions with regard to what those fees are, and they have certain assumptions with regard to how much those fees are going to escalate over time. One of the key issues that we've seen is that, we would be told that, or the contract would estimate a fiscal year would have $4 million of cost. the actual end-of-year numbers would really be closer to $3.6 million. So there'd be a $400,000 unexpensed budgetary allocation that we're setting aside for the fire contract. However, it's not spent. And so we see that happening now year over year. So, over the 4 years I've been here now, we've seen 400,000 or better with regard to unexpensed fire contracts. So there's a couple things that we really would encourage and recommend council do is to authorize the mayor to issue a letter to Riverside County to request that information be provided that shows how the county is estimating and calculating and apportioning their fees, which really apply to the overhead component. And then what are the elements that are going into the forecast number for the multi-year cost for fire services under these contracts? Not that we would change what they're forecasting, because they need to have some assumptions, they need to present that out, they need to roll that out to all the agencies in Riverside County that are using the system. But we need a better understanding about what's going on into those forecasts so that we can better budget. So if that means that we should count on only allocating or budgeting 90 or 95% of the actual CAL FIRE in Riverside County cost, then we can better make those determinations. If you look at $250,000, $400,000 that go unused every year, we're cutting short police, we're cutting short streets, we're cutting short other critical services which can't get funded because we may be over allocating pursuant to those calculations. So I will say that in looking at a preliminary assessment of the Schedule A numbers that came out, the escalators appear to be moderated down somewhat. So instead of the county administrative costs being calculated to escalate by 7% every year, and that's a compounded 7% year over year, they're being forecast to a 5%. So again, what is the basis to determine a 5% escalation on those costs over a 3-year term? That doesn't comply with CPI, it doesn't comply with some of the other cost factors that we see. So what is it that's going into those estimates? So those are the kinds of questions and things that we need to know in some specific detail. And we'd like to try to get that information and get a chance to digest that information before we actually have to execute another contract. So again, that's the situation. Those are the issues that we're looking at. And again, recommendation from council would be to authorize the mayor to submit a letter formally requesting that the county provide the information needed to address those concerns.
Thank you very much, Todd. Nicole, do we have any public comments, either written or on the line?
I have no written comments. Carrie, do we have anyone on the line?
No callers on the line.
Okay, open it up for council discussion.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Finn?
Yes, question for Mr. Parton. So I kind of view this as a giant public records request from them in a sense, and how long do you think it would take them to get the information to us?
Well, I don't think it's a public records request. I think there's a book, there's a document that they have that provides for the methodology that they've been using to try to calculate some of these things. So that would be the starter, and then there would be the need to probably sit down with representatives of CAL FIRE as well as representatives of Riverside County to begin to walk through. And at some point, there's probably going to be some additional background data that we'll want to see, as that's presented. So hopefully we don't have to go through a public records request process. Hopefully it's a cooperative process to make that happen.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Finn. Mayor Pro Tem White?
In long lines of what you just said, what is our time frame for when we have to approve the contract?
The current contract expires at the end of this fiscal year, so June 30 is when this contract currently expires. So they're going to request that the city consider adopting this contract probably in June or maybe May, probably maybe in that time frame. So we just have a couple months to try to get this information and try to digest it and understand it. Some cities are really starting to talk to the county, and they're wanting the county to start to consider to do 5-year contracts. And so, my concern there is if we already have an escalator issue and a lack of understanding what's going on 3-year contracts, a 5-year is just gonna, take that even further out. So I would rather go the other way and say, yeah, we can look at a 5-year term, but we need a fiscal proposal and a budgetary proposal that needs to be presented to the cities for ratification or some process before, the budgets get adopted every year. But I don't see that happening. That'd be the dream.
No, I'm good.
So, just remind me again, so we're contracting with the county, who's contracting with CAL FIRE, correct? County is kind of like the middleman?
Correct. So the county has an agreement with CAL FIRE, and that agreement then says that cities that want to contract with CAL FIRE have to go through Riverside County. So pursuant to that contract, we cannot negotiate our own independent contracts directly with CAL FIRE. So for example, San Bernardino doesn't have that structure. Yucaipa actually contracts directly with CAL FIRE. And so some of the costs, and we've looked at that Yucaipa contract, so there's some components of overhead cost in the Yucaipa contract with CAL FIRE that are consistent with some of the types of charges that are factored into overhead costs in the Riverside County contract. So it's not that the county's applying cost or applying charges that shouldn't be applied. It's just, what are they, how they apportion, how are they calculated? And so the fee structure, when I look at it, has not changed, and what's being proposed hasn't changed for many years. But technology's changed, our communities have changed, the way communications is handled has changed, there's more technology. So have the fee structures been updated, and are they being adjusted to keep pace with what's actually happening? And are there reapportionment of costs from one element over to another? Those are the types of things that, are just kind of begging us to kind of try to drill into, kind of find out.
And because it sounds like the San Bernardino County has this different situation, technically then it sounds like this is a county-created process. But it doesn't sound like CAL FIRE created it. If CAL FIRE can go directly to cities, you would assume they could do that here, but somehow county said that you're going through us. Is that kind of the way?
Right, and so the umbrella structure here is a good structure. And so it's been very beneficial, and it's been very advantageous to this community's public safety. So from my perspective, I see that you're really getting a cost-effective CAL FIRE proposal here. And especially when you look at wildfires, you look at all sorts of things that have happened around us and right next to us and within our sphere of influence just over the last 4 years. So it is a good contract, and it is a good arrangement. And so one of the things that the county overall umbrella helps to ensure across all of Riverside County is mutual aid. So all of the cities that are under the CAL FIRE umbrella through Riverside County get auto aid, and so they'll balance it out and we all get coverage, and we're not left uncovered. If we're outside that system, then it would be a like for like. So it's not, there would be mutual aid, but like for like. If you have one engine and that engine is taken out of service or extended over, there's one engine that they would provide, versus us, hey, whatever's needed, they send. So it is a system that works. And if you look at the cost per station here, it's not that much more expensive than the stations, the 3-man engine companies that I've run back in Texas. So, the cost per station here, even with some of the costs that are a little bit higher and some of the other contract costs that are there, are still being handled in I think, a very cost-effective manner. And Chief Hopkins, since he's been here, has been very helpful in even helping us to be more economical in how we've managed our contracts. So for example, a vehicle that may need repair, we could handle through a cost apportionment process through the county contract, which would then have that additional county markup. Or we've said, hey, well, we can take this truck, and we can take it directly to the shop ourselves, and we can have it repaired, and we can avoid county markups. We've had to make adjustments to buildings. We've done that through direct contracts and through CAL FIRE. And so going through those processes and looking at those opportunities for vehicle maintenance, vehicle repair, building repairs, and building upgrades are things that, we've been able to do to kind of save a little bit of money too. So I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago, we actually amended our CAL FIRE contract to actually reduce costs, equipment costs by about $68,000. It's because we were able to do some things like that, some strategies like that saved some money. So CAL FIRE has been very cost conscious. The CAL FIRE management and Chief Hopkins in particular have been very, very sensitive to our financial issues. So it's a good contract. It's a good arrangement. I guess that's a long way around just saying
Well,
that.
and I have the most confidence in CAL FIRE. I just wanted to make sure that the residents knew that this was a type of a contract that ensured safety, maximizing that. So thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Santos?
Yes, hey, Tad, on the cost number on this, I mean, you're right on we got the 3 years contract, we're getting into, but the increase on that is around 700,000. So we're looking at quickly a calculation in there around 6% per year on that. You're right. I mean, if we could, watch their overhead, their job costs and everything, that will help us to dissect our budget and everything. Because since I was here almost 3 years ago, costs keep on climbing. I mean, on that direction. So yeah, you're right on that. Yeah, there's almost 18% on the increase on the 700,000 for 3 years. That's a lot of dough. I mean, on that. And then probably I'll just kick in on this. I mean, on the cooperative agreement that we have in there, I'd like to give a credit on the section 3 on that up to A to J. Did well written. I mean, well written on that. The title of that is payment for services. I'm glad that looking on the summary of the staff report, I was looking on that. Is it on the contract and everything? Yeah, it's on the contract. It's well written. I mean, I give you credit, everybody credit on this. That's a good job. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Santos. Todd, thanks for bringing this to our attention and getting on it early, so hopefully we can get a response back from the county quickly. So thank you. And we're all in agreement with moving that forward?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. All right. That brings us to legislative updates and discussion.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight's the legislative update, which will provide a little bit of a summary for the month of February. So in terms of the state, there was 2,369 bills introduced this legislative session prior to the February 19th deadline. So staff has started to review the huge amount of bills that are coming in with their potential impacts on the city and in the region. Once we're complete with our introductory review of these, we're going to be bringing City Council a hot list, if you will, or a matrix that shows the different bills staff feels would positively or negatively impact the city, as well as other bills that we would like to keep an eye on or monitor, if you will. The legislative session does hit spring recess on the 25th of this month, so March 25th. And the last day for policy committees to advance fiscal bills is April 30th. And May 7th is the last day for policy committees to advance non-fiscal bills. So that just gives you a key timeline on when actions are going to be taking place in Sacramento on these different things. In terms of Also working with the state, they have proposed the economic stimulus package at the state level as a portion of the governor's budget. And we see direct relief to individuals and families contained within that funding package, immediate relief to small businesses. So earlier this year or late last year, the state of California appropriated around $500 million or $500 million to their small business grant program. And that's currently on their calrelief.com website as we sit here today. They're providing, at least in this budget proposal, $2.1 billion. So that represents a 4 times plus increase to that grant program. We also see fee waivers for heavily impacted businesses for their licenses, which would be alcohol beverage control, as well as beautician and barbershop licenses and so forth. Additional resources for critical child care. And that's most of the main items contained within the budget proposal that really affect us. At the federal level, we're seeing movement on phase 5 coronavirus aid packages. Phase 4, which passed in December, has gone through, and now we're seeing the American Rescue Plan that's being proposed by the president, as well as a counter bill that is being proposed through the House. And we do see around $350 billion for state and local governments. I talked about this at the last meeting. A little bit more information is coming down the pipe for what that apportionment looks like. So it does appear that local governments would receive 40% of that, so around $130 billion, divided evenly between cities and counties based on the current CDBG formula. And then they're starting to work out how fast localities and counties would actually need to spend that money, how fast it gets in their hands, and what the key criteria is for the utilization of those funds. So we're keeping track of that. There was a discussion from the White House in terms of, alterations or modifications to the current Paycheck Protection Program. And I won't go through the key issues on that, but it really looks to me like it's focusing on a more streamlined, efficient Paycheck Protection Program application process for small businesses. And they're defining small businesses as 20 employees or fewer, which is a sign of good news, because I think previously the federal government identifies a small business as any business that employs less than 500 people. So that was the prior mark, and I think they've come around and realized that while that number typically works for the federal government for grant programs or something like this, if they really want to get it in the hands of a true small business, they're aiming at that less than 20 employee number. So that's really what occurred in February. There has been some movement as March, although we're sitting here on March the 2nd. So over the weekend, is it over the weekend? No, it was, I think last week or early this week, the CDC did approve the Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccine. So that the Biden administration has started shipping. So they've ordered and started shipping over 4 million doses of the new Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The coronavirus relief package I talked about through the House passed on Saturday morning. So it's going to hit the Senate, and we'll see what alterations or modifications take place there. And then lastly, yesterday, the governor of the state of California, going back to the state, did introduce his inclusion of the budget package to reopen schools. And that's a $6.6 billion budget package that focuses on a safe return to in-person instruction across California. And that concludes my report for today. Oh, one last thing, because I saw it today and I have it at the end of my notes. So President Biden did today announce that there will be enough vaccines for all American citizens, for all U.S. adults by the end of May. So the end of next month, there should be enough to distribute to every single adult in the United States. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Orsinski. Appreciate that. That brings us to council reports. Councilmember Santos, you have it. You're up, buddy.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Not much, but I'll just give small things in here, but it's no significant information. Just like on Sunday, me and Mayor Lara, we went to San Gregorio Memorial, Hospital Foundation to honor our first responders, and that was really nice. I mean, kind of cold. We're outside and windy, but that was really good. I mean, there's a lot of dignitaries attended that, and then last week I attended the RTA. There's not much significant information to report on that, and then I'll jump in on the Beaumont Employee Appreciation Luncheon. I mean, we had that. That was really good, and I'd like to say congratulations to Shay, and especially Carrie. Carrie didn't realize 25 years. Congratulations, and thank you for your service. That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Santos. Councilmember Finn.
I don't have much to report other than just to echo what Councilmember Santos said about the employee appreciation. Just a big thanks to all the employees who give their heart and soul to the city, and it's appreciated at all levels. So thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Councilmember Martinez.
So I attended the RCA yesterday. We received our 2019 report, and we had quite a few presentations actually during the meeting on our plan and kind of our future plans for the going forward with the RCA. We also had a action proposal to adjust mitigation fees for some current property owners. And I mentioned that because I was the only dissenting vote on it out of the whole board. And I just wanted to mention, in case you hear from your colleagues and so forth, that Beaumont voted against it. But basically, we had our Nexus study, and the Nexus study came out, and we're ready for implementation. And then the board's already trying to, modify who's paying and so forth. And I thought it was just so inappropriate if we just got the Nexus study, we haven't even implemented it, and you're already carving out, rules and exceptions. So I just thought it was a bad precedent on that rule alone. They did have compromise in that proposal. It was a proposal brought up by Supervisor Jeffries, and it wasn't a bad proposal. It had to do with current property owners paying no fee, and the executive committee did modify that into a kind of a rebate type form where they would pay a fee but in a modified level. And it wasn't a bad compromise, and I mentioned that in my comments. But I just felt that when you have the new Nexus study, to start already coming up with exceptions before we even start implementing it, I thought was not good practice. So I did vote no on that, and I wanted to let the council know and to let our residents know, and that was my position on that. We did not have species of the month.
Oh.
Yes, I know, because we had so many presentations, so hopefully we'll have 2 species next time. And again, I want to echo the Employees Appreciation Lunch, and congratulations to all those well-deserved employees. I was working, I couldn't get that time off, but again, well-deserved, and it went very well, it sounds like, so congratulations to all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So did a Nexus study and then negotiated the fee that came out of the study.
Yeah, well.
Okay.
Okay, so.
And I think Councilmember Santos ate your hot dog at the.
Oh, he probably did.
I didn't want to say anything out loud though.
Did look at.
Mayor Pro Tem White.
Just one thing to report. I sit on the, actually I'm chair of the Toll and Policy Committee for RCTC. And we had a presentation this last week regarding the Express Lane 15 15 express lanes that are opening up beginning of 1st of April. So over the next 30 days, you'll start to see a community and public PR program to get people to understand how that's going to work. And one nice thing that comes out of it is if you do decide to buy or get into a transponder, that if you get one for the Express 15, it will work for all the other connecting express lanes. So you don't have to get one for Orange County and one for Riverside.
That's a major improvement.
So they're going to be ready to go April 1st, and just wanted to get that out there, let you know.
Good.
That's it.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, I did want to mention that with my dissenting.
Species of the month?
No, with my dissenting vote, I probably will not be on executive committee at RCA, nor on any of the chairmanships, so just to let you know.
All right, thank you.
Don't
Mayor,
expect.
You will.
quick one from
Just
here,
kidding.
Mayor Pro Temp, Lloyd White. Thank you for that information because I do use that 15 freeway in there, and they do lack that Magnolia up to those Lagos Mall, and now they will open it. That would be great. Thank you so much for that information, Lloyd.
And let me respond if you don't mind, Mayor, to Mr. Martinez. I've been a number of only dissenters on a number of issues over the last 6-7 years, so it's not going to impact you.
Okay, well, thank you for that. That was my confidence. I felt odd, but I stuck to my ground, so that's what I believe. So thank you.
All right. Attended WRCOG on Monday. I believe that is going to be, Mr. Rick Bishop is going to be retiring. That was his last meeting. I'm not sure. I believe he may be staying on to assist in a transition, but he is going to retire. Enjoy the retirement life. And that's all I have. And again, thank you to the employees and the number of years that they've all served and the dedication that they have to our community. I appreciate that very much. With that, we'll come to the economic development update. Mr. Warsinski, back up again.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We're getting geared up for our Economic Development Committee meeting next Wednesday at 4 o'clock. And one of the key presentations we're going to be seeing next week is a update from Riverside County, previously called the Economic Development Agency. Now it's Business and Community Services Division, on the different economic development programs and services that they provide from for the region. And that concludes my report for tonight. Thank you.
Great. Kyle, is that going to be Wednesday? Sorry.
Wednesday, yes.
Thank you very much, Kyle. City Treasurer's Report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have no report because our financial audit meeting is next Monday. Thank you.
Thank you very much. City Clerk Report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Public Records Request Monthly Status Report. Number of requests 12, number of completed requests 12, staff time allocated 6 hours. That's all I have. Good evening.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that. That brings us to Mr. Pinkney, City Attorney Report.
Nothing to report this evening, Your Honor.
All right, sir. And last but certainly not least, our City Manager, Mr. Todd Parton.
Oh, my, it's an honor, sir, to be.
Honor is all mine, sir.
Presenting to you. So, true to form, we have our project update that was included in your packet today. I would draw your attention to page 277, in particularly the West Side Fire Station. So we are in the process right now of finishing up a couple different things. We're doing the environmental assessments that we needed to proceed forward with our bid and determine what our new MSHCP fees are going to be. And then we're also in the process of going through an RFQ process. We wanted to pre-qualify the construction contractors. So we want to drill down and actually focus on construction companies that have a demonstrated experience in successfully delivering public safety, particularly fire buildings. So it is somewhat of a specialization. So we're in that process. And so we are scheduled to really be ready to try to go out to bid here still towards the end of this year. So hopefully have our pre-quals done by this summer and to be out to bid for construction this fall. So there's some additional work that we need to do with the landowner. We need to adjust the property limits a little bit. They've been open to that conversation. Where we actually had the property designated actually kind of overflows into an area that they need to grade for some commercial development that they're contemplating on their site. So we need to pull some of the property in, pull one of the lines up, and kind of pull it down a little bit. So our plan would be to coordinate all that final adjustment to the property to coincide with the bidding and construction for the project. So we are working on that. And I appreciate council discussing the employee recognition. We had to do an outdoor event because we're COVID compatible in our employee recognition. But it's our time to really celebrate years of service in our service awards. So we recognized 12 employees that had a combined 195 years of experience, if you just count the service award. So we kind of talked about the history of that. That's 195 years ago, we had the first railroad that was commissioned in this country. We had the first patent issued for the internal combustion engine. The nation of Fredonia, which was anchored in Nacogdoches, Texas, was established in 195 years ago. So anyway, so it was an interesting time back then. So, it was mentioned that Mrs. Mendoza received her 25 years. So it just shows you working here keeps you young, because people don't realize she's 85 years old. So it has kept her very young. And actually, it's kind of funny because I was just reading about the endangered species. And the Santa Ana sucker is endangered, which is proof there is not a sucker born every day in Riverside County. So
He does better when we don't have the species. Very good.
Thank you. So, Mayor, that concludes the city manager's report.
Thank you for that detailed and enlightening report there, Todd. That brings us to future agenda items. Do we have any future agenda items from council?
None today.
Crickets, all right. So that brings us to adjournment, and I will adjourn this meeting at 7:43. Yeah, respect.
Thank you, guys.
Night, everybody.
All right.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks,
Night. Thank you.
Councilmember Santos.